Hey, I'm just going to throw this out there to people. See if it strikes a chord with any of you. And you don't have to weigh in because I think some of this might hit home for a few people. But I think we are living in a world gone crazy. And it's, I'm starting to question where it turns around or if it can at this point. So I promise this won't be as much of a downer as a lead in starts, but let's do it. Hey, everybody, this is Perch. Fear in life is a huge motivator for all kinds of things. And I think we are living in a time where there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of unknowns. We also have the Venn diagram of nightmares, where we have an election year between whoever side you're on, you've got a very different game being played with politics. Donald Trump is a much more aggressive player in terms of how he engages and how he interacts. We have the Democrat Party, who's largely Democratic Party, sorry, that's largely kind of followed suit to some extent to get behind that and use a lot of the same tactics. Very different ideologies, but very similar tactics. Both groups use against each other at this stage. And meanwhile, we have this virus that has a lot of unknowns, a lot of fears. We have a media that is all in on they've firmly figured out that fear and sensationalism is greater than truth. And what's interesting is a lot of people will say, well, the news media that I like, the New York Times or CNN or Fox News or Breitbart, whatever it is, you can find somebody who believes theirs is the balanced one, the good one, and everybody else is the crazy one. Where in reality, they're all using kind of the same things. So we have a presidential election that's being touted as kind of the end of the world. We've got a virus that's being touted as the end of the world. We've got a media that, by and large, on all fronts, is kind of poking the fire, getting it really going. So everybody's really, very intense. And we have a lot of people that, it's interesting, if you think about this during a different time, the lockdowns and the shutdowns and everything else that went on for the virus, we're done with unknowns. People didn't know what was going to happen. They didn't know how bad things were going to get. They didn't know how things were going to, by the way, this is getting to comics, I promise. But they didn't know where it was going. So they instituted these lockdowns, they instituted these shutdowns. We watched China completely board people up in their homes. We knew we weren't going to do that, but we have to do some level of that and everything else. And everybody just tried their random things. And if we weren't so polarized as a nation, we might have looked at that and gone, hey, I don't know that's the right thing, but, people don't know what to do and they're trying to lead and they're trying to keep us safe and, this isn't ideal, but let's see where it goes. Instead, because we are so polarized, immediately people had to take a side, which is full-throated support of the lockdowns or aggressive fighting of the lockdowns. But all this generates anxiety and stress. And if you could do a heat map over the country of the US right now and see the anxiety, it would be off the charts. One of the things we'll be learning about years from now are the amount of violence that's gone, domestic violence, divorces, screaming, arguments, tenseness. I guarantee you it is off the charts right now because people are wired and they're tense. So what does that have to do with comics? Well, I forgot one other big thing, and that's, of course, the civil unrest with the terrible murder of George Floyd and some of the other things that are now coming to light, some of the other people who were killed. We're seeing protests that some are peaceful, some are violent, some turn to looting. And unfortunately, like everything else, that also becomes polarized. Either you're for the protests and you're anti-racist, Black Lives Matter, or you are, defending Confederate statues. And, and it's just, the world does not need to be that binary. It isn't in most normal life. But unfortunately, we're not living a normal life. So everybody is on edge. And now in comics, what has happened? Well, we have an industry that has never quite gotten big enough. It's underperforming where it needs to. And we've known that for years. We have some anxiety about where jobs are going to go. And you have a bunch of workers who are independent contractors who do not have full-time jobs, do not have security like other jobs. I mean, no job has a ton of security right now, but comic jobs have even less. And we have, interestingly enough, we have the display of what happens if you can go on social media and really whip yourself a following, do videos and everything else. For whatever you feel, whether you're pro or against, the Comicsgate world, it has been shown now that if you go on and you entertain people or trash people or troll people, depending on your view, you can do $1 million comic book. And the more extreme you are, the better. Even big fans of Ethan Van Sciver, I think, would admit that he takes more extreme positions in his live streams and everything else than, say, I don't know, Brian Edward Hill. But he's making $1 million, and he's very vocal about that, very public about that. So you live in this world where nothing is certain. The virus may kill you. We have politics that are so tense that if the wrong person wins, half the country will blow up. We have jobs disappearing, the comic market underperforming. Nobody's quite sure what's going on. DC is leaving Diamond. Crazy. And then you got this one guy over here that some people say is an ass, and some people say is the most humble guy in the world, and he's making $1 million. That is a recipe, that is a stew for absolute craziness. And I think that's what you're seeing right now in comics. And the problem is, as more and more things pile on, as we go from Warren Ellis and grooming to Ed Piscor said something that maybe some people took the wrong way, to Robbie Rodriguez did something foul a couple of years ago, and now maybe he asked for a threesome. Who knows? Just we've lost sight of kind of where's the bar between sexual assault, somebody who's a player and bad at it, somebody who makes offensive jokes or doesn't, or what. I mean, it's all just up in the air constantly. And you see more and more of it online. And I think as everybody is panicked, there's a point where people are like, I've got to get in on this. What's something that somebody did that bothered me? And I expect to see some tweets from a comic creator going, hey, I was, some guy was supposed to pick me up from a car, and then he forgot and he didn't, and I had to take an Uber, and this was harassment. I mean, I think it will. I mean, we're just all the dirty laundry is getting drug out. And it's not just that it's venting; it's that there's almost this panicky need we've got to get it out there. We've got to get these things out, because if we don't, we're not talking. If we're not talking, we're just sitting in our house and we're melting down, and we can't. It's this panic that's driving just really just absurd, but just edgy fear. And it's a terrible thing. I think it's good for the problems to come out, but I don't think it's good for them to come out like this. One, I don't think we're going to get a real solution. Two, I think it's in many cases, I don't think we should put like sexual assault and guy hit on a potential artist on the same playing field, but we are. And I think when it's being driven from attention, I mean, I think there's this pressure on a bunch of people in the industry of like, hey, you haven't posted your Me Too story yet. You don't have one? Oh, well, you must not be part of the industry. You need to get one. It's like, it feels almost like that. It's gross. And again, to stress, I think some of the things that are coming out absolutely need to come out. And more importantly, they need to be, these people need to be maybe reported to the police. They need to be run out of the industry. Yes, they need to be, if for somebody who's actually, moving into assault, yeah, you should be run out of the industry. You should be in jail potentially. But a lot of the things that are getting discussed are none of those. They're just somebody's frustrated with somebody else. And I think the panic and the not being able to go outside without a mask, and you go to the grocery store, it's a horror show. I go to Target now, and it's a terrible experience. I used to kind of look at things, check out, hey, I wonder what new toys are out. That's always fun. I'm an old guy, but not old. I shouldn't say it so quickly. But I'm like, hey, look at these action figures. It's kind of cool. There's some Marvel guys there. It's fun. Look at the Lego sets. It's fun. But now it's like going into a biozone where nobody wants to look each other in the eye, and people are trying to get in and out. And you're like, you don't even want to touch a basket. You got I'm watching these people like walk around with the groceries piled up in their arms, like apples are rolling out of their arms. It's like, Jesus, it's a mess. And the part that scares me, honestly terrifies me, is I'm not sure. I mean, I think there's some people who don't really want it to go back. This is suddenly, there's a lot of attention. This is a new normal. It's something kind of, you get a cosplay, fallout. That what worries me is that there's some people that are digging in. And particularly for some parts of the media, I mean, it's funny because you have to have a long memory. But when I was, 15 years ago, I remember joking with my friends about Fox News and how it was, very sensationalistic. If you watch Idiocracy, they make a joke about Fox News being like kind of turning into a pseudo porn channel, and you look at it today, and they're all like that. Like everybody's joined up, and there's so much money to be made out of this panic and this fear. And I just hope people are willing to sacrifice some of this easy money and go back to sanity at some point. I mean, I don't think this election's going to do it. I mean, let's say Trump wins. We're still going to have craziness. Let's say Biden wins. There's going to be craziness. Like, where's the hope in this stuff? You just hope that, like, a vaccine is found. It's distributed everywhere. It's perfect. We get WrestleMania and life's good. Like that's what you hope for. But I do think comics is getting weirder and weirder, and I'm worried we're getting close to a point of no return. What about you? What do you think? Leave a comment below. Like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter or Facebook. Calm me down, man. Bring me off the edge. I'm a comic perch out there. Most importantly, hey, thanks for listening, and stay clear of the fear. It really, yikes! It can't be this bad forever. I hope.